Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Madam Ranking Member, for this hearing. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your service. Thanks for the time you took last week to visit with me and others. I have had the incredible privilege of serving on the House Armed Services Committee and serving on that committee's Quality of Life panel. And many of you came before us last year to talk about quality of life. And I'm privileged to be on this committee and this subcommittee to be able to take all of those lessons learned and apply them on the Milcon side. I also want to say I have the incredible privilege of representing Fort Bliss, which is one of our nation's premier military installations, and working with leadership there over my fourth term in Congress has been the highlight of my service. So I'm grateful to all of you for your leadership as well and everything that you do to help inform our decisions. I've been really alarmed by the mass firings, deep cuts to personnel, but also the year-long CR, which has a direct impact on our nation's military, on leadership's ability to plan ahead, on the impact it has on our contractors who depend on their ability to plan for the future and to have some stability. I really hope that Congress understands the negative impact on our military every time there is a CR. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you for allowing me. I'm going to focus on the Army. So Sergeant Major Weimer, you and I had a great conversation. As we talk about our Milcon obligations and the backlog and the incredible need that leaders like you relay to us, we have to figure out better ways to stretch the dollar and be more efficient with the funding that we provide. And there was a mention a few minutes ago about data. Data is so important. And I can tell you some of the data that I've seen locally. When we look at Milcon investments at Fort Bliss and we compare them to non-Milcon investments, but regular investments, either via the university for housing, and compare that to military housing, or local government's investment in healthcare, building hospitals, versus what the federal side spends on building hospitals. There's a real opportunity for us to find more efficiency. The data I have seen demonstrates that we're spending up to 5 times more money through federal spending on similar infrastructure projects than what local governments are spending. And so there's great opportunity for us to do more and to learn from that and to be innovative. And Sergeant Major, you and I talked specifically about integrating intergovernmental service agreements for major military construction, scaling up privatized barracks construction, land lease for industry to facilitate construction of non-military facilities like childcare development centers or administrative office buildings. We also know in Fort Bliss really cool, innovative projects like 3D printed barracks. We really have a great opportunity here. Sergeant Major, can you speak to the utility of implementing more creative mechanisms to meet our military construction needs, especially at mobilization force generation installations like Fort Bliss?
Yes, Congresswoman, let me look at that clock real quick. There's a lot there. Thank you for the meeting we had. It was fantastic, and I really do appreciate your energy and others' energy when it comes to helping us find creative solutions during things like CR. There, I said it, I can get it out of the way. But also where we are with our Milcon and Milcon reform that we really do need some assistance with. Like any good organization, we have to look internally ourselves first, right? We can't just immediately ask for legislation assistance, although there's some space there where we could use some help. But we also have to look at like our own force protection. We've added some crazy force protection measures that are a bit legacy in my opinion and others before we closed off our installations, but we're still paying for those additional costs. Some of our construction costs have increased 50%. Every state's a little bit different. I don't really want to talk labor laws and agreements, but that's a factor in this also. We can't even get construction workers onto the installations because of their federal records, and so they're continually changing the construction workers, and so you have delays, and I could go on and on. But I guess I would like to say creative solutions are fantastic, and we're never going to stop working with you and anyone else that's willing to help us in the Corps of Engineering in that space. But really, a lot of those are Band-Aids in I think, to true Milcon reform. So I love to work with you on this in the future.
Count on it. That will be a priority for me. It is a priority for me, not just Army, but across service lines, because as we see budget constraints going forward, and we compare those constraints for our inability to be creative and thoughtful and strategic in terms of our reforms and our creative approaches, it's those families who end up living in subpar conditions, or our active duty service members who have to deal with the inadequate responses. So when I spoke with each and every one of you, I mentioned that as a priority. That is something my team and I are really going to dig into. Really appreciate your collaboration. Again, appreciate your time today and your service to our nation. I yield back.